Hello, algebra students. This is Mr. Von Awe coming to you live from my living room. And we're doing some more algebra. We are in Unit 7, Lesson 2. Our objective today is that we are going to learn how to solve quadratic equations of type ax squared plus c equals 0. All right, I'm going to be teaching you today the principle of square roots. Okay, so just to start off easy, all right, so let's say I have the square root of 4. Okay, what this means is that they're asking what number squared is 4. Can you think of a number that when squared it equals 4? Well, you probably guessed it, 2, right? 2 squared is 4. Therefore, positive 2 is a square root of 4. All right? So, but there's actually another one. Can you think of another number when squared gives you 4? Well, how about negative 2? All right? Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. All right? So anytime you have a positive radicand, you're going to get 2 solutions. All right? So keep this in mind. By the way, we can write this as plus or minus 2. That's kind of a shorthand way of writing it. You can say 2 or negative 2, or you can just say plus or minus 2. Okay? So the square root of 4 equals plus or minus 2. All right, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now let's go to a more generic case. Okay, let's say I have ax squared minus c equals 0. All right? Ax squared minus c equals 0. Now you'll notice something. I do not have a b term. Usually I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? Well, when I'm missing that b term, that middle term, I can use principle of square roots to solve these very easily. All right, I can use other methods too, but square roots, principle of square roots is going to be really easy, and it's going to help set us up for completing the square. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. All right? So if I'm going to solve this, this is just a constant, right? And I don't have any b term to worry about. So I'm just going to go ahead and add c to both sides. Okay, and that's going to cancel, right? Negative c plus c is 0. Okay, so what am I left with? Well, I'm left with ax squared equals, well, 0 plus c is just c. All right? So I want to get rid of, I'm trying to solve for x, right? That's my goal. So I need to get rid of this a first. Well, how do I get rid of this a? It's being multiplied by x squared. Well, the inverse of multiply is divide. So if I just simply divide both sides by a, right? A divided by a is going to give me 1. So I'm left with 1x, or just x squared. 1x squared or x squared. Equals what? Well, equals c over a. Okay, c and a, those are just constants. Many times a will be 1, and when it is, you'll just have c. All right, so I have x squared. I want to get rid of that square. Do you remember how we, what the inverse of a square is? You got it. It's a square root. All right, so if I want to get rid of that square, I just go ahead and I take the square root of both sides. All right. So the square root of x squared is simply x. So x equals the square root of c over a. Now, I know this looks a little complicated. When we're doing with numbers, it's a lot easier. Okay, so, but remember, if I have a square root of a number, I'm going to get a plus or minus as my solutions. So if I'm taking the square root of c over a, I got to go x equals plus or minus c over a. Okay? And that really is the principle of square roots right there. Okay? If I just have a square with no b term, I can just take the square root of both sides and be done with it. All right? So let's take a look at an actual problem, and you'll see how easy this actually becomes. All right. That over there. That right there. All right, so let's say I have 3x squared minus 12 equals 0. Okay, now I could solve this by factoring, right? We've learned that in other videos, right? I can just pull out a 3 as my greatest common factor and then factor that binomial. We could do that, but I'm showing you a new method because it's easier. Whenever you don't have a b term, you can use this method, all right? And notice I don't have a b term, right? I have an a term and I have a c term, but no b term. So it's just as simple as, remember what we did? We're going to add 12 to both sides. All right? And what that does, it cancels that minus 12 over there. And it gives me 3x squared equals, well, 0 plus 12 is just 12, right? Now, you remember what that next step was? I'm trying to solve for x. I'm just going to divide by 3. All right? So here we go. Divide both sides by 3. And I end up with 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I get 1x squared, or just x squared, equals 12 over 3, which is 4. Remember that? Oh, very nice, huh? All right, so now how do I get rid of that square right there? You got it. Do the inverse. Take the square root. As long as you do it to both sides, you're good. All right. So now I got the square root of x squared is x. And the square root of 4, most people would just simply say 2. However, remember, anytime you take the square root of a number, you're going to get 2 solutions. The principal square root is the positive, but in reality, there's also a negative as well. So this should be plus or minus 2. Or you could say x equals 2 or x equals negative 2. Okay, that's the long form. All right, so that's using principle of square roots. Let's do one other example that will involve a little bit more complicated number on the right-hand side here. All right, let's go ahead and do that over here. All right, so I have 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. Okay, remember what our first step was? Well, I'm trying to get x by itself, so I can just use linear equation solving skills. So I want to add 9 to both sides. If I add 9 to both sides, that's going to cancel that. Okay, giving me 4x squared equals, well, 0 plus 9 is 9. Okay, again, Isolating x squared, well this 4 is being multiplied, correct? So the inverse of multiply is divide. Divide both sides by 4. Alright, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I'm left with x squared equals 9 divided by 4. You see that didn't reduce nicely like 12 divided by 3 did, right? We didn't get a nice 4 this time. So I get x squared equals 9 divided by 4. Okay. So again, what did we do over here to get rid of that square? Remember, we just did the inverse, which is a square root. So we'll take the square root of that, and we'll take the square root of that. Okay, so the square root of x squared is just x. So x equals, what does x equal? Well, it equals the square root of 9/4, doesn't it? That's kind of an ugly fraction, isn't it? Well, we can help ourselves out here. I want you to understand something. This 9 and the 4 are all under the radical. All under that square root symbol, right? So we can actually break this up. The 9 is being being square rooted. So I could show it like this. Right? Over, and the 4 is also being square rooted, so I could show it like that. You see that? I haven't really changed anything. Both the 9 and the 4 are being square rooted. All right? Now what's the square root of 9? What number squared gives you 9? It's 3. And what number, actually there's two solutions there, right? What number squared gives you 4? 2. Now remember that anytime you square root a number, you're going to get 2 solutions. Okay, so this is going to be plus or minus. Okay, so x equals plus or minus 3/2. Okay, another way of showing this is x equals 3/2 or x equals negative 3/2. Alright, this is saying the same thing, right? This is the long way of writing it. There's 2 solutions, 3/2 and negative 3/2. If I want to do it in compact form, I just say, hey, it's plus or minus 3/2. Okay? So that's the principle of square roots. If you're missing that b term in the middle, just get x squared all by itself, take the square root of both sides, and you're done. All right? Make sure you do some practice with this. That's really the key for learning anything, especially mathematics. Also remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you get notified whenever I make new videos, so you can watch those. All right? And as always, may God richly bless you.